In this video, I will show you how to create a new project in SDL Trados Studio. Before starting though, let's first take a look at the files and resources that we will use for this project. So I'm switching over to Windows Explorer here and I'm showing you the resources that we will use. So I have 4 documents that I will use: a Word document in the old style, PowerPoint new Microsoft Office format, XML file, and also a Word document in the later Microsoft Word format, in the docx format. So that is the initial starting point from a documents perspective. But I also have a few other resources that I will be using: auto-suggest dictionaries for 2 languages, as well as term bases that I will use, and translation memories that I will use. So from the translation memory names you can glean that I will create a multilingual project with 3 target languages going from English. So I will create a project that will go to French, German and Japanese. Right, with this information then let's get started. So I'm in Studio here, and you can, for example, start a new project from the welcome screen like I'm showing here. It's also possible from the projects view, where you can also use the same functionality, and also you can go to File, New Project here as well. So let's get started from this particular location. Each project is based on either a project template or can also be based on a previous project. When you create a previous project-based project, then you can actually use some of the settings of that previous project, as well as make use of the perfect match technology if there are new updated files that should be compared with older files. In my case, I will just take all the defaults, so I am basing it on the default project template. And then I can give a name to the project here and some other information. So I will call it my first project here. I can decide on lots of different metadata and other information that I would like to use. In my case, we can just quickly go through. So I can specify which location should be used. So in this case, I could browse and select some other location. In my case, I'm happy with the location here. It is always recommendable to use short paths if you can. By default, Studio puts the documents and projects into your My Documents location, but you can easily change this here and then go to a path that is maybe a bit closer to the root of your hard drive. You can also specify due date, a customer as the case might be, and also you can publish a project on group share, which means that it will be shared online with a team of translators and reviewers that might work with this. This is all not in scope of this particular video, but just wanted to briefly mention all these options. So let's just accept the defaults as is. Then you can specify a source language, obviously, and then 1 or more target languages. German is already selected, but what I can do is I can also quickly go to French and Japanese. And so now I will be working with 3 target languages. Click Next. Then here I'm specifying the files that I should use. And as I showed you before, I'm going exactly into the same location that I showed before and add these 4 files, which are scanned according to their file type. And what I can then do is, for example, still change the file types here. As you might know, Studio has very rich file type options. So for example, for Word, I could make lots of changes if I wanted to, but I will just keep things the default in this particular video. Just want to mention some of the options that you have when you create a new project. So I'm happy, let's assume I'm happy with all these options. I go Next. Then here the translation memories can be selected. Let me just start really from scratch just to show you how this works. So here, for example, I can add all kinds of resources, including machine translation like Big Global, server-based translation memories from group share. So that is all possible. In my case, again, let's keep it simple for now, and I just select file-based translation memories in this particular case. So again, I go to the same location that I showed you before, pick my 3 translation memories, and they're all added. You have a rich set of options that you can select as a project manager if you want to fine-tune how the project will be used, both by yourself if you create the project for yourself, Or if you want to have freelance translators work with this, then you can also preset some of the values that the translators should be using. So that can be quite interesting if you want to work with a particular supply chain on this. I keep all the defaults. Click Next. The next step then obviously is that I add some term bases. You create term bases in multi-term, which is handled in a different video. In my case, I'm assuming I already have one, which then means I can just go to Add and Browse, and then pick this particular term base. Again, it's exactly in the same location that I showed before. You can also add server-based term bases if you wanted to. And then what's happening here is that the term base gets added, and also the project languages get mapped with the particular languages that are set in the multi-term term base. So Studio always tries to map the project language with the most likely language from a multi-term perspective. Then you click Next, and here then you can basically also specify if you were using perfect match. You could add the previous versions of the documents and then run them against perfect match as well. In my case, that's not something that I will do, but the option would be here. And then quite importantly, you can decide how the project should be prepared in detail. So this is one of the quite rich areas in Studio where you can fine-tune how to prepare a project. In my case, I'm using the prepare without project TM sequence. You can work with main translation memories and with project translation memories, and you can then decide, should the main TMs be updated directly by your supply chain, or should project TMs be created that can then be removed at the end of the project and then the main TM updated. So here's the task sequence button, which gives you access to the entire functionality here in terms of the task sequences that are available. You can edit them, and this is where it gets really very fine-tuned and rich. You can have all kinds of different tasks that you can put in your own sequences if you would like to. In my case, again, I'm just accepting all the defaults, but just wanted to briefly share the power behind the task sequences as well. So you then click Next, and then you get the batch processing settings that you can use. Again, quite rich settings. You can decide on a number of analyze files settings, so what should happen during the analysis of the project. You could export unknown or frequent segments to translate them first of all in bigger projects, so that basically the frequent segments already get pre-translated maybe by your supply chain before you then send the entire project, just to ensure consistency with the frequent segments, for example. You can set a rich options for pre-translation against translation memories, so you can say basically whether 100% matches should be locked or whether context matches should be locked. So all kinds of options that are available to you in terms of how you want your supply chain to work with the project. And you can even decide what fuzzy match categories should be used. So you can even fine-tune how fuzzy matches should be paid and budgeted and so on. In my case, again, I'm just picking all the defaults. And then you get the project summary shown here. And here is where you can then once more actually review your entire project, which can be very useful. So in my case, I could go through and once more check the file type settings. But what is also quite nice is that I can also here now define the QA checker settings, which might be interesting. So as a project manager, you might want to, say that all the punctuation should be checked by your supply chain, by the users that will use, or the translators, reviewers that will work with the project. So you could say, I want to perform a punctuation check. I want to perform a numbers and measurements check. I want to even check against regular expressions if you wanted to. So lots and lots of different options that are available here, which you can preset for your supply chain where you will send the project. And once you're done with all this, you click Finish, and then the project gets basically prepared. You can see that this can happen very fast. Once you have made settings to your project template, what you can say is you don't want to change your project template, which I specified at the beginning, which in my case is the default template, or you can update the default template with these new settings, or you can even say I want to create a new project template based on this particular project so that I can reuse that template for later projects. In my case, again, I just say close, and the project has been created. And that's basically it. So the project is now available. Obviously, what you would now do is maybe create project packages to send to your supply chain by language. So I created 3 different target languages. Then I might create 3 different project packages, or even better, I would publish the project on a server, which then can be worked on by the supply chain without having to create project packages. So that's definitely another very interesting option if you are using GroupShare and an online way to create or work with your projects. Obviously, as a project manager, if you have, let's say now 3 translators that you work with, you typically also want to budget the project. You want to make sure that both on your end and on the work doer end, you're clear on the statistics of the project so that you can budget appropriately. And this is what the reports view is here for. So in this view, you can now see for my 3 languages different reports that have been created as part of the preparation process. I have an analyze files report per language, which shows me in detail the total of the project analysis as well as per file, which gives you a very deep way of budgeting the project, obviously. So here in German, for example, there have been a few more matches found than for the other languages. So you can right away see, okay, there's 187 new segments out of 216. Again, you could drill down to the file details as well. So the reports view obviously then gives you lots of options to budget and scope the project. You can print, save as, delete reports if you wanted to. So all these options are available from here, and obviously this also helps you then to work with the supply chain in terms of budgeting the project. So lots of different options that might be available. If you create the project for yourself, then what you can basically do is double click and start translating right away. So in my case, I would open the file here and would be able to start translating the project by myself as well. So all these options are available, and you have a very flexible way of then working with the supply chain if you're a project manager, or just create the projects for yourself and work with them this way. Thanks very much.